Hello, and welcome to You Should Hear This, a podcast for the everyday association professional. I'm Chris Beeman, your host. Have you encountered the acronym AMC in your work and wondered what it stood for? Hint, it's not the movie theater brand. Or do you have peers or colleagues in the association industry that work for or with multiple associations and you're just not sure how that's possible? According to the AMC Institute website, association management companies, or AMCs, are for-profit businesses that manage associations to help them grow and prosper. They offer the expertise, staffing, and resources that allow professional societies, trade groups, not-for-profits, and philanthropic organizations to effectively manage day-to-day operations and advance their long-term goals. AMCs deliver high levels of expertise and accountability so that associations can continue to increase their value and relevance to members. Today, I'm joined by two experts and highly respected association leaders, two people that I personally admire for their commitment to our unique profession, Leslie Murphy and Lane Velayo, who I will introduce separately. Lane Velayo, CAE, is partner at Madison, an association management firm that specializes in managing nonprofit associations and believes in the power of not-for-profit organizations to change the world. Lane has held several leadership positions within associations as well as AMCs, and he has been recognized by his peers and colleagues as a past recipient of the Association Executive of the Year honor by the Indiana Society of Association Executives. Lane was also selected as a class of 2015 member for the American Society of Association Executives Diversity Executive Leadership Program, or DELP, which supports individuals from underrepresented identity groups in the association community to advance into the ranks of leadership in the association profession. He is a newly elected member of the AMC Institute's Board of Directors. Welcome, Lane.
Thanks for having me on board. I really appreciate it and excited to spend some time with you all.
Absolutely. Next up, we have Leslie Murphy, FASAE, CAE, who is president of Rayburn Group International, or RGI, which is an accredited full-service association management company. Leslie has been a leader in association management for more than 40 years, and she has been actively involved within the Indiana Society of Association Executives throughout her career, serving on several ISAE committees and the board of directors prior to being named executive director from 2007 to 2013. Her work in associations has earned her the ISAE Staff Professionalism Award, Volunteer of the Year, and the coveted Association of the Year honors from her colleagues. She has also served as chair of the American Society of Association Executives Certified Association Executive, or CAE Commission, and was honored as an AE Fellow for her contributions to the profession, a highly prestigious recognition in the field. She has also served on the board of directors for the AMC Institute. Welcome, Leslie.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here with you and Lane.
Absolutely. Just for our listeners today, I'm going to invite both of you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Leslie, with more than 40 years, why don't we start with you?
I started out in association. It was basically my second job right out of college. And like most of it, went into a job where I went, okay, I'm going to run conventions and run somebody's office. Had a great boss who really helped teach me that this was a profession and supported me with professional development. And I've been doing it mostly for national and international associations headquartered here in Indianapolis ever since.
And Lane?
What I thought was going to be a quick 2-year move to Indianapolis post-college, more than 20 years later has turned into a career and build out of a network that I really enjoy. Similar to what Leslie touched on, so much of that is thanks to mentors who, Leslie being one of those, who showed me, hey, this is what the association profession is. This is the value that association professionals bring. And as I was exploring the move and ended up purchasing Synergos, which is now part of Madison, Leslie was really integral in talking through some of the experiences that I had as an AMC leader, what it's like to switch some of your thinking and bridge the world of being an AMC, which is a company, but also serving those associations that you love to work with and that you're actively working with currently. It's really thanks to a lot of those mentors that got me into those networks. I'm still here providing good, positive contributions to the association profession.
And I love that you've both stressed the importance of mentorship and connection and peers in our industry because, Leslie, like you said, most of us feel like this. but there's so many of us now. I'm now going on year 11. There's so many of us that really have found this to be a passion of ours and love the industry. And I think a lot of it is because of the people. It's the opportunity to sit at lunch tables or receptions with people like both of you. Thank you for sharing that. Let's dive in a little bit. Actually, let's dive deep into the world of AMCs. Can you, in your own words, describe the unique role of the within our industry?
Think of an AMC like a shared economy for associates. So instead of our 17 full service clients having to have their own office leases and postage machines, we do that for them. We take care of that for them. We are their headquarters. That also extends into staff. Let's be honest, Lane and I have both done this, been captive staff execs. Sometimes things are a little below our pay grade. Not that we're all not happy to pitch in, but we're able to right size some of that within an AMC. For instance, so somebody either doesn't need or can't afford to have a full-time communication coordinator. We could share that between two associations. Give that person here all of the time. I think there's that other benefit maybe we'll talk about. But I say I have a really good elevator speech, but I need a really tall building. What would you add to that?
Touching on those economies of scale are really important, right? There isn't the need anymore for ownership of a physical asset by an association. And so we're able to create as AMCs a lot of efficiency for associations of any size, whether that be on the staffing model, on the overhead side, as well as leverage that expertise because we can continue to invest in that staff. And I think that's what's so important about that. As Leslie mentioned, we've worked for associations that were standalone. And in many of those situations, I use the analogy of a juggler. Small, medium, large size associations, you're juggling multiple hats, you're juggling multiple roles because you're never going to have a staff of 200. You're never going to have a staff in some associations, even 10 people. And so you have just enough skill to get by and do it fairly well. You're taking on a lot of roles and doing things that are not necessarily your highest or best use as an association professional passionate. In the AMC world, we're able to smooth a lot of those things out because we can have a dedicated finance team. We can have a dedicated event planning person who is doing that across multiple association partners. And as a result, we can make sure they are building their expertise in an area that they're passionate about and that they're working in full time.
One of the other things is when you're an exec for a standalone or captive association, you're on an island. You can't talk to your staff. You can't talk to your board. Yes, you can reach out to your ISD colleagues and please do that. That's where Lane and I've learned so much over the years. Within either of our firms, we can reach out to other execs. We're the safe haven. We can reach out to other people who do what we do within our company. I know I was interviewing one time a communications person and they said, I was the only person at my firm who did this. And so I didn't really get a lot of mentorship. I didn't get a lot of hands-on. I said, there's 10 people here who do that. So I think that's another piece of the benefit as well.
That dreaded association management system that we all love to hate, right?
Yep.
In our company, we have so many instances of the same one where we can have working groups to do that. Those are some really powerful moments.
You have touched on a few already just in conversation, but from association professionals that I know, one of the things they enjoy the most is actually that variety of work. As you mentioned, one person may have 2 or 3 clients across the discipline of communications, but that's going to vary uniquely even between those clients. What are some of the other benefits of working within an AMC?
So many times when you get into a small association, the only way you're getting promoted is that executive director deciding to retire, right? And so we can offer more of those levels of engagement and growth within a larger organization. We try to really assess what are you passionate about? Where do you want to learn more? And is that an opportunity for us to create a specialization for you as an individual? So we can create a lot of those internal pathways. It's also an opportunity for them to find something that they want to be really good at and mentor others within the company. As we've talked about, having sat in the seat of a small association and been that executive director, I no longer have to worry about tax things that I need or finance things because we have a team. I need to be conversant enough, but I don't need to dive into that.
I couldn't agree more, Lane, and it worked very similarly that way. By and large, at one of our firms, you work more with the state group. but you really enjoy meeting planning or you really enjoy events or education, great. We'll take you to a national event. You'll go and work with the team from RGI or Madison at a national or international event. If that exposure we can give folks, again, find out what they're passionate about. We can't give it to them in that one client at that moment.
I think most association professionals would get it when I say there is some level of cultural fit that exists with associations, right? And we've seen this internally within our company where somebody that we thought was going to be a great cultural match for an association, maybe it wasn't as clean as we thought it was going to be. And so we had opportunities to make staffing assignment adjustments internally that made the client and the staff person so much happier. And we find we're a little bit more flexible. It's not perfect. I'm going to be the first person to say that. I don't have staff sitting on the bench waiting to get called in, but we have the ability to make some of those adjustments. I think, again, in that standalone world, if you were to get hired by an association and there isn't that cultural fit, you're stuck until you can find a new job. And so we can ease some of those things.
Absolutely. Even if it is a cultural fit, those of us working in standalone associations often are up against the challenge of a specific role. We are communications coordinator, and there's not event planning that can go along with that because someone else is already doing that. And so there's not always that collaboration or team engagement that you have an opportunity to be a part of. Whereas in the AMC world, I'm imagining it's all just happening together.
We can be much more mindful about providing opportunities that may help them understand what path they want to go through beyond just the coaching and the mentoring. It's the actual experience.
And what we do is great, but what we do isn't always easy. Sometimes, especially in small standalone, we can collectively do a level reset about a conversation or help because we just have more people doing it and more people with experience and they're able to talk to sometimes once again, sometimes it's not always your direct supervisor in any situation as the person you feel comfortable sharing with or feeling vulnerable with. We've got plenty of folks that can serve that role for any of the staff at any time.
Let's shift the conversation a little bit to serving your clients. Can you describe what that means specifically to be a full service AMC?
We're their headquarters. Everything that a standalone would do, we do for them. We just have more efficiencies around being able to do it. Our boss is that board of directors, just like you would have in a standalone. That's who we serve. That's who we talk to. That's who we have to sell when we're looking to bring on new clients. And one of the interesting things is sometimes people think they're giving up control when they hire an AMC. And I think Lane and I both agree, it's absolutely the opposite. We have a very clear scope of work. We have a very clear contractual relationship. We're also able to get a volunteer board of directors out of the HR business. If their executive director decides to retire or leave, that's our job to replace them. It's our responsibility for that continuity of information. And that's critical.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. The boards of directors are still in control. If we need to walk them through understanding where those controls are, we have the ability to provide those teaching moments for them. We've explained to associations many times that they have more controls in this process because there is specifically outlined contractual that they can look to protect themselves. We want to create opportunities with the association partners that we work with. That's a regular balancing act, making sure all of the stakeholder interests are aligned. This is an opportunity for them to have everything that they've wanted out of an expert staff.
A lot of times my brain starts to think about who, what, when, where, why, how, and all we've talked about. I'm curious to dive into the when, if you don't mind. When does this conversation usually start amongst the board of directors to say, now might be the time to transition to something like a full service AMC?
I think maybe there's a decision where there's a really positive staff transition and they want to celebrate that, but they want to understand what models are out there. Those are opportunities where in the strategic planning process, we can be really planful and purposeful about what does transition look like? How do we make sure that we understand sometimes existing staff are coming over and we want to make sure that there's a cultural fit between the organization and the staff. And that's never simple, right? Those are some of the best case scenarios where a board or an executive director is saying, this is a model I'd like for us to think about as part of the strategic planning process. And sometimes those transitions happen a little bit faster than we'd want in the ideal. Luckily, I have leaned on Leslie for some of that counsel. I think we all say sometimes as owners in a room, what would you do or how have you handled that? And we have enough war stories between all of us to say, this is what I did. Have you tried doing this? And again, come together and share those experiences and lean on each other for support. As AMC owners, AMC Institute, we have that unique subset of the association profession. We can talk through some of those things and make sure that we're understanding some different options are.
I'll give you a kind of example of what Lane's talking about. We had a situation where there was an exec who wanted to work part-time, did not think their standalone association would deal with that. They came here, right? They could work part-time, get all the technology, we have all the stuff. Somebody's always here, and that made them feel more comfortable because they still had that known entity of executive director. They got what they wanted, and that's the way that can happen.
Without divulging any client information, how often are people able to clearly articulate what they may need from your organization? You offer such tangible services, right?
Think about a standalone situation. How much does your board know about what you do? We do have to guide them. It's a little bit more of an art than a science to try to figure it out by looking at their programming, what they're doing, trying to ask the right questions. And that's a very different thing than if we could just go to a president or president-elect and go, buy our services, but that's not it. We have to get a collective group of volunteers to understand, unfortunately, sometimes that they aren't able to make this decision.
And it's a little bit of a two-way assessment, Chris. I talked about a little bit about staffs and culture. As association management companies, we have to understand whether there's a cultural fit between that association and our company because we want long-term partners. No association and no AMC wants to be switching their staffs out every single year. That's not healthy for an organization or maintaining that strategic plan. So we have to be, really good stewards for us to be bringing on as much as we want to help. And sometimes we do a little bit of referral. That's a real win because the association moves a lot faster in those instances and it becomes a come-all situation. That's not what we want either. Those are to where, as we said, a little bit more of an art than a science. And so it allows us to ask the right questions a little bit faster. It allows us to have a little bit better understanding than maybe an AMC that has one or two associations that they've worked with, and they maybe haven't seen that type of experience. Not to say that it won't come for them. Eventually it will, but I think that we have the opportunity on our end to be able to sell. We've seen a lot of it before. Not everything, but we've seen a lot of it before to be able to ask the right questions and move the process along a little bit faster.
It's important we respect our staff, that we are true to them.
What I'm hearing is that if we realize something's not a great fit for us, we're going to say this might be a better fit. And so it's not necessarily passing along the bad boyfriend. It's just this wasn't a fit for our culture, for our team.
And sometimes it's timing. If we're onboarding a new client and it's going to be a lift, I'm not going to add on to that. It could just be timing sometimes. So usually my conversations are, let's talk. If I can't help you, I'll help get you to somebody who can.
Yeah, and I think we are both advocates of the AMC model because it truly is efficiency and expertise and so much opportunity for associations that we want to make sure every association has the opportunity to be able to find the right partner and move faster in the AMC space versus just trying to help make them figure it out on their own. So there are a lot of times where, we're not bringing you on as a client, but let's help you find a resource that makes sense. We want you to be successful in the AMC model. And there is the right association professional for every association. And there's a lot of opportunity for us as colleagues to grow that versus being competitive for every single dollar, because there are, things that I think that we do extremely well. And same goes for a lot of the other AL have their areas that they do extremely well or that they are maybe personally passionate about. And so it's an opportunity for everyone to do their due diligence to say, we want to find the long-term best for our.
Speaking of doing things really well, I apologize if this puts either or both of you on the spot, but what's something that you're just beaming with pride about?
When you look at that pandemic period, I'm really proud of the fact that we were able to pivot our associations quickly. We were able to move them. And it's because we were able to learn faster across all of our associations and I was trying to identify a partner for virtual events that could work across all of our clients. So we very quickly had the standard operating procedures and the processes to run every one of their conferences and build the expertise, because it wasn't just one association. This one virtual conference is our do or die event. We had a lot of them with a lot of people looking at it to make sure that we were constantly building expertise and that we were able to do it. I think that, and when we were having to negotiate out of meeting contracts, again, it wasn't just one contract for us, it was a lot of contracts. We were very used to, this is what needs to happen. This is the process we need to use. And we were very successful in making sure that our associations were protected as quickly as possible to the extent that you can in that environment. But I'm really proud of the way that we were able to pivot and build that expertise quickly. And I think that is a case study for AMCs to be thinking about.
Absolutely. I call it R&D, which is not research and development. It's rip off and duplicate. So we did the first one, right? And then we learned the data we needed. And then we did the next one, the next one, and the next one, and it got better. We learned how to keep exhibitors. We learned how to make sponsors happy. And we were able to do that. And it was so interesting to listen to some of our staff talking to colleagues who hadn't done a single one yet. And I think the other thing I'm proud of, Madison and RGI, during the pandemic, for whatever reason, we both decided to apply for best places to work in Indiana. Only 125 firms crossed Indiana. We both have been there 3 years in a row. And I think that speaks a lot to, back again, how we were able to pivot not only for our clients, but for our staff, to show compassion and empathy for our team who were also going through so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's impressive. And I didn't realize that. So congratulations. That's really awesome. Last, I've got 2 questions left. This next question, you both have had professional titles such as executive director or CEO within associations, in addition to leading your AMC teams. And personally, I'm just wondering how you balance all of that work.
You do.
The balance doesn't,
No,
yeah.
to look this in a row. Took one of it interim, but I went, this is back to the learning, right? The learning that I get from my colleagues to go, that's not sustainable. You're working in your business, not on your business. You can't keep doing that. And that's a leap, because honestly, I'm now unallocated overhead, basically, right? If I'm not making money directly from a client, but it's an intentional balance. It has to be an intentional thought and conversation, because we're the only ones who can run our business. So we really have to be focused at that level, at least some percentage of our time. Otherwise, the doing of associations just will sweep us away. Is that fair, Lane?
No, it's absolutely fair. And I think it's one of the first pieces of advice that Leslie gave me when I was looking at moving into the AMC ownership seat, is that you can't sell yourself. You have to sell the company. Otherwise, everybody will expect you to be their exec, and that is not sustainable. And yeah, I sit in the executive director role for a couple of our groups. It's something that I enjoy doing. Part of me being able to do that is because we're in a partnership model where I have, a couple other partners who are, to what Leslie mentioned, they're more of the unallocated overhead that are working on the business day to day. And so it is for me a constant understanding of, how do I balance my time and where are priorities? That's number one. But number two, I have staffs that are doing 99% of the work. And I really consider my role sort of mentorship and just overseeing the process and doing a little bit of governance expertise. But again, to one of the very early points when we talk about growth up within the company, is those are opportunities that I'm hoping, and we've had those conversations, for them to move into those executive director roles in a safe space where I can be as an advisor or not even show up to an event because they don't need me there anymore. And it is really gratifying to see those moments where, when I first bought the company and took over, where I felt like I needed to be at an event every single day for all of our clients, and stress level was high and I felt like I had no time to do anything, to now where I don't even necessarily, unless I'm interfacing with the board of directors, and sometimes it's even virtually, but I can trust that we have built the right staff with the right level of expertise to run those operations on a day-to-day basis and meet with those boards on their own without me having to hold their hands. And so that's really important. That evolution continues for me as I identify which partners I can move into more of an advisory role for, while staff steps up and get elevated into those executive director seats. But it's a ton of opportunity for our staff internally to be able to take on those titles, especially as they get their certified association executive credential, to build up that expertise in a safe space and know that even after they take on that role as maybe their first time executive director, that it's still a safe space because, hey, I'm here. Do I need to run interference with this board? Do I need to step in for something? No. Okay, you got it. That's great. Or yes, you're having an issue. Let's chat about it. At least I know enough of the players to be able to have that educated conversation internally. And for a lot of our boards, they have really appreciated the fact that when we can do a transition or when there's a staffing assignment transition, that organizational history is still with the organization a lot. So it's not as though you're going from 100 to 0 all of a sudden because they've found a different opportunity with another group. It's 100 to 30, and that 30 is just so to make sure that questions are being answered if there was something that wasn't fully documented in our project management software or something like that. And so I think that's a real relief to a lot of associations, a lot of association board presidents who don't want to be put into that HR role or in that pseudo executive director role at any time.
Yeah, and I think so many association, even staff leaders, when a new challenge presents itself, I don't have the answer. On boards, I can only imagine what they're feeling and experiencing when they're either coming from industry and maybe have never served in an association, when something significant is sitting in front of them, a decision they need to make, and no one's really ready to make the decision or feeling like they're informed, they're confident. I can totally see how that wealth of knowledge and expertise that comes within the AMC staff and the leadership would benefit an association like that. And I think that's a huge value add for associations.
The association staff for one of our longest term clients, over 20 years, all 3 of their executive directors in that time are still at RGI. So we had that recently where, hey, we can have it. Help me on this one. And they are known, those other 2 executives are still known within their association and recognized by people who've been around for a bit. And it is so helpful. And that continuity, just knowing there's that continuity.
I think one thing that we didn't touch on in all of this is part of why some of that happens isn't necessarily by magic. Both RGI and Madison are accredited by the AMC Institute. And so when we talk about peace of mind for associations, so AMC Institute is the association for AMCs, and they run an ANSI accredited accreditation program that AMCs go through, where we're audited by an outside third party that makes sure that our policies and procedures meet best practices that have been, decided upon by large and small AMCs alike, to say these are the best practices that every AMC should be running off of. And that's been verified by an outside party. So we talk about all of the things that we've been talking about. It's because we have policies and procedures that are in place that we are following that make everything happen that we've been talking about, from staff culture all the way to how we interact with our associations. And so not just me sitting here saying, hey, these are the great things that we do. It is an outside third party saying, those are the things that they're doing. And I think that's important for folks to understand when they're looking at an AMC partner. There are ways to ensure that your partner is doing everything they say they're doing, and it meets best practice standards.
Before we wrap up there, I think there are 2 things I'd love to reflect on just briefly. First, Lane, in the recent response around how you balance work, you mentioned you commit to things that you are passionate about, that you find joy in. You said you enjoy doing those roles that you may not necessarily have to do as a partner within the company, but you enjoy doing them. And I also heard that from both of you at the start of this conversation, that you seek to find opportunities that your team members are passionate about and find joy in. It seems like that happens at all levels of the business, which is really impressive to me. I just appreciate that. Leslie, I'm wondering if you've been reflecting on when you were working in the business, not on the business. Would you say that applies to a board of directors who are trying to make decisions on hiring or sourcing solutions where they're trying to make decisions around operationalizing the business and not working on the business? Would you say that also applies to them?
Absolutely. There's no question. Governing isn't easy. And so it's natural sometimes for boards to get into the weeds, but to get into more of those operational kinds of activities, that's really hard because nobody had good answers, right? Now it's getting them back to what they need to be doing, which is on the business, governing the association.
I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed all of the insights and takeaways and conversation today as extremely familiar and friendly faces in ISA and E. I know not everyone can see us, but it was great to see both of you today, and I so appreciate your time. As we wrap up, again, I mentioned familiar faces. I know people can find you at a variety of industry events, but if someone would love to be in touch between now and then, how can people connect with you?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn, Leslie Murphy.
Yeah, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or feel free to visit our website, www.madison.com, or just catch me at an ISAE event. Happy to have a beverage and chat about the world.
I love it. I love it. Thank you both again. We hope you enjoyed this episode of You Should Hear This. If you have any questions you'd answered or future topics that you'd like us to explore, please email at info@isae.org. Thank you for your leadership of your associations, and I'll see you over on the next episode of You Should Hear This.